It's wonderful for us to host you here. And I'm Albert. I'm the Chief Consulting Officer for Incidis Technologies. I'm really privileged to head up a consulting division with a passion for innovative problem solving and a deep understanding of dynamic business needs. Before I kick off this afternoon, I just want to start with a quick joke. So the software architect walks into a bar and orders a drink, and the bartender says to him, "How's work going?" The architect sighs and he says, "Well, I spent 6 months designing this beautiful, scalable microservices architecture, clean separation of concerns, fault-tolerant message queues, the whole 9 yards. Then management decided we needed to ship faster, so they brought in a consultant who looked at my design for 5 minutes and said, we should really put everything into a single monolithic application with a shared database." So the bartender pretends to understand and he nods sympathetically and he said, "So what happened?" So the architect says, "Oh, well, we shipped on time and it works perfectly. Turns out all this complexity that I was concerned about doesn't actually exist at our scale. So I basically spent half a year solving problems we don't have, while creating new ones we definitely do." So the bartender summarily pours him another drink and he says, "Sounds like you learned something valuable." The architect stares into his glass and he says, "Yeah, that I might actually be the problem I'm trying to solve." So Incidis is that company. We're the ones that demystifies the complexity. And we're a strategic partner that helps companies eliminate inefficiencies, secure their digital assets, and really be able to scale with confidence. As Simon and Linda mentioned, we typically focus on 4 verticals of cybersecurity, data science, tech ops, and business process management. We've recently gotten really involved in the AI space and we're loving it. But all of those are just sort of ways of saying that we're really good with computers. A question to our audience this afternoon is, how many of you have found yourselves troubleshooting IT issues at 2 o'clock in the morning, despite that definitely not being your job? Or have any of you ever had to step into the breach as a cybersecurity expert just because you know a thing or two about strong passwords? I've worked in many SMBs over the course of the last few years of my career, and I've noticed that unless those businesses set out to be a tech consultancy like Incidis, they've almost never really set out to become great in IT, so to become an IT department or a cybersecurity SOC or a data science lab or process optimization gurus. These companies invariably started because they had a brilliant idea or a superior product or an exceptional service that they wanted to bring to the market. But in order to bring this to the market, somewhere along the lines got blurred, and now they often spend more time troubleshooting technology issues that doesn't serve them, instead of using that technology to stimulate their growth. I'm sure this sounds familiar to you. There's a universal truth about SMBs, and that's at some point they invariably become so tied up in the quagmire of IT issues, and that they will become so busy putting out fires and that they don't spend enough time on building the empire. So while these companies are figuring out why their systems are slow, or worrying about becoming a ransomware victim, or drowning in data that they can't really make sense of, or manually doing tasks that should really be automated, their canny competitors have somewhere along the line started scaling efficiently, making data-driven decisions, operating with bulletproof security, and focusing 100% on what makes them money. And the difference between these two models is that the latter companies have stopped trying to be expert at everything except their core business. And this is where Incidis Technology sort of enters into the fray. We're a small to medium businesses digital transformation wingman. So we really handle the tech stuff so that companies can start focusing on being brilliant at what they're actually supposed to be doing. And we don't just manage their computing technology, we convert their technology into a catalyst for their growth. So I guess you can really think of us as the team who clears the path so that SMBs can sprint towards their goals rather than stumble over digital hurdles. Um, I've previously mentioned, and as has Simon, that we typically work in four verticals or disciplines. The first of which is tech ops, technology operations. And how we normally initiate that at companies is we typically go in, we audit the current tech stack and setup, and then we sort of diplomatically identify what needs to be improved on. We then typically move towards designing technology roadmaps that make sense for companies' businesses. It's not a one size fits all. We also help companies migrate to the cloud without losing their minds or indeed their data. And then we also build disaster recovery networks for companies that work way better than them hoping that nothing goes wrong. So I guess the bottom line in the tech ops sphere is we really turn technology from a cost center into a competitive advantage for companies. Or we make their tech work so hard that their tech deserves a promotion. The second vertical that we play in is cybersecurity. And again, what we do is initially we go into companies and assess the lay of the land. We look at security gaps, and spoiler alert, there are normally way more than they envisage. We help companies build compliance frameworks that keep their internal stakeholders as well as their auditors happy. We create incident response plans for when and not if something goes wrong. And then we also fortify the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain, which is often staff members. We train customer teams to really identify security threats with professional expertise. What this means for small to medium businesses is that they can sleep soundly knowing that their business won't be the next cybersecurity headline. Because really strong passwords alone doesn't a cybersecurity strategy make. The third vertical is one of our passion projects. It's data science, or any business's crystal ball, as we like to call it. And what we do in this space is we audit companies' data. We figure out what data they need and what they don't need, and it's normally not everything. We then build dashboards that tell businesses what's happening in their businesses in real time. We create predictive analytics that help them make decisions with confidence. And we establish data governance so that their data pipelines are in order, and also that they know where everything is. And then even when we eventually leave their business, that there's a constant flow of data and a good taxonomies, and data sanity remains a priority after the fact. So we really enable decision making based on insights and not instincts. And we turn companies' data from digital hoarding into strategic gold. Lastly, we assist companies with their technology business process management, or any company's efficiency engine. And what we do here is we analyze and map out companies' current processes and find those bottlenecks that are hiding in plain sight. We then take companies from point A to point B as quickly as possible by designing streamlined workflows that make sense for the company again. We identify automation opportunities that save companies hours of work and invariably also improves on accuracy of workflows. And what we also do is we leave behind measurement systems so that companies can actually track again in real time what is working and what isn't working for their business, and also install that methodology of continuous improvement. What we love to do in this space is we love to enable businesses to stop doing things manually that could be done faster, better, and with more accuracy by robots. And we also automate the boring stuff so that they can, again, focus on what they're really good at and building the empire and the exciting stuff. So, we we often think of these as sort of four separate verticals, but what we found is where it gets really interesting is that they aren't really always four separate verticals. They're often four sides of the same strategic advantage. I like to think of it as a house where your technology operations and networks and such is obviously the foundation of the property on which everything is built. Then you've got cybersecurity, which is the boundary wall of the property, keeping everything safe. You've got data science, which is the windows to the beautiful view of the property. And lastly, you've got the business process management, or the efficient business processes. That's the feng shui, that allows this dragon of energy to flow through the house just right. Now, when these things work together, that's really when the magic happens. Technology just becomes invisible. It sits in the background. Nobody even has to worry about it or think about it. And it's secure. It provides insights. It runs efficiently. And then companies can really focus on what makes them great, getting back to their core service or business. I think it's fair to say that the businesses that will thrive over the course of the next few decades aren't necessarily always the ones with the best products. There's lots of companies with great products out there and services, and that does help. But the companies that will really flourish will be the ones that's got the best systems, the cleanest data, the strongest security, and the most efficient processes. The question is thus not whether anybody needs to level up their digital game. It's do companies want to figure it out for themselves? Do they want to expend budget on non-core processes that don't bring in revenue? Or do they want to partner with people who've already solved this issue dozens of times over? I think it's a pretty evident to see what the answer to that question is. So all that's then left for companies to decide is, what's your adventure going to be? We've got a couple of distinct engagement models. The first of which is our project-based model, and that's where a intervention has a distinct start and end point, and where we tend to solve specific problems for companies without them necessarily having to commit to long-term engagement. The second model is what we call our virtual office model. And this is really where we sort of blend seamlessly into companies' teams. And we really become sort of part of the proverbial execution furniture at companies. Now, we've in the past worked in the healthcare industry and professional services and financial services. We love to work in small and mid-sized enterprises. That's where we find we can really make a difference very quickly to companies. We've worked in the government and public sectors and really just sort of in all growth-focused organizations. And again, we love to free up companies from that toil which doesn't serve them, so that they can focus on their growth. We've left a lot of really, really successful customers in our wake, and grateful customers in our wake. And we've got a lot of glowing references, a couple of which you'll see on the screen. The first of which is Psychiatry UK. Psych UK is the United Kingdom's biggest online psychiatric platform or application. And I think we all know what predictive analytics is. It's sort of when, at my age, you look out the window and you see the rain clouds, and then you can sort of predict that your knee's going to pain for the for the next week. So it's kind of what we did for Psychiatry UK. We developed a predictive model to improve patient care and operational efficiency by analyzing data on key variables for them. And this sort of model helped Psychiatry UK make informed decisions about patient medication and optimize their data processes much, much quicker. So we freed them up to, make the important business decisions, and we sort of handled the techie stuff. BackaBuddy, South African-based crowdfunding platform, had budgetary restraints, but they really needed sort of strong technical intervention. And I guess we all know that the CTO is the dude that knows about computers, but also wears a suit. And we help BackaBuddy with one of those. We help them with really strong sort of tech governance, that lent them sort of a technology strategy and lent stability to their processes, enabled them to identify a solid tech team to take forward, and also to really sort of develop their ongoing tech strategy after we left the company. And we did that all for them within the bounds of their budgetary restraints. So the bottom line, for us is we love to be that team that really goes in and takes the troubles away. We make them disappear into the background, so that tech doesn't become a hurdle or a burden on companies. It becomes an enabler for that company's growth. Because when companies' tech runs smoothly and it makes operations run smoothly, and that become the data is secure and actionable and processes are optimized and so forth, then those companies can stop playing defense and they can start playing offense. And that's when they move faster, they innovate boldly, they lead with certainty. And that competitive edge, that's what transforms good businesses into great businesses.